Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Gall, and as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Mervell. And today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey Comics from May of 1986.
That's right. And as usual, we're joined by G.I. Jolie.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Well, I almost said Today Mirror by Justin Timberlake came on, and I danced so hard I threw my back out.
Oh.
God.
Oh, Jolie, that was the most millennial thing you've ever said.
Well, I've been rocking to Gordon Lightfoot all day, so I got you beat. But anyway.
Jesus.
Okay, Bex Luthor, thank you for joining us.
I can't think of anything more embarrassing to say I was listening to, so I...
All right, and this week we have a very special guest from the Windsor Public Library Movie Club, Josie Murphy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yay!
You know what's funny? Yeah, I completely didn't even ask you if you're interested in comics at all, I don't think. But are you? Are you a comic reader?
I've never read a comic in my life until this weekend.
Wow!
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Yikes.
They were cool, though. I did like it.
Okay, good.
Right.
Okay, so before we jump in, though, I mean, you obviously know who Spider-Man is. You've seen the movies, right?
Yes, I'm aware of who he is.
Okay. Do you have any opinions on Spider-Man? Is he one of your favorites? Do you care about him?
You know what? I'm kind of indifferent. I don't like spiders. I think they're scary and creepy, so he would probably creep me out if I saw him in real life dangling from a web or hanging off the side of a building. But I do like that he's one of the younger superheroes and that he doesn't quite have his moral compass 100% pointing north.
Good point. Yeah. Now, is there a reason, like, you just never got into comics? Did you read, like, Archie or anything when you were a kid, or just nothing?
No, I was really into chapter books. I don't know. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I was a nerd.
Well, you're with
We
some
weren't
geeks
for
right now,
reading
so,
comics
yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
Coolest kids at school.
Yeah.
Everyone talked to us. We had so many friends. And they're all not in this podcast.
So yeah, okay. So anyway, yeah. So we're gonna jump in, and one of the things that we like about '80s comics is usually they're pretty, friendly, like reader friendly to the new readers. So we'll test that theory today. We're gonna start off with Web of Spider-Man number 14. Josh, you gonna tell us what this one was about?
Yeah. So we start off with a classic down on his luck Peter. As he is told by his landlady that he's going to get evicted in 2 days if he doesn't repair all of the damage because he didn't read this part in his tenant's contract where it said that if there was a fire, he would have to replace it all, apparently. Seems pretty illegal, but I guess I'm not too caught up on all the rules in New York for this sort of thing. But so because of this, he kind of contemplates selling the golden notepad, which has been kind of a reoccurring plot line ever since the beloved Secret Wars 2 side story with a whole building turning into gold. So he dons his costume and he decides he's got to go make some money. After that, we cut over to the Black Fox as he is he's kind of like getting ready to leave, right? Because I think the last time we see him, and it's mentioned before in this, it's mentioned later on in this comic that Peter stops him before and he kind of hears the Black Fox's sob story about how he just wants to get away. So Peter lets him go. So we see now that there's kind of like this mob boss, this like guy who's stopping him from going, and he'll like expose him. So he's like making him do this one last job type thing, where he has to go steal an emerald, I believe it is. After that, we catch up with Peter. He stops by to see Nathan because apparently he's still in the hospital. So this is taking place before everything that happened last month.
I think he just is getting a checkup.
In the hospital bed?
That's what they say. It's just
Oh, okay.
Tess.
I think it's all out of order. I think it's out of order.
I must have missed that. Yeah. I guess I just assumed he was still in the hospital since he was under the covers and in a bed. But so he goes to check in with the Daily Bugle. We see some kind of confrontation with Robbie and JJ. They're kind of arguing over. JJ's not really fond about how he's running it, so they're kind of arguing, and some comments are made about JJ taking over again. Peter asks for an advance on some photographs, but Catherine Cushing says no. So he's kind of like, well, now what am I going to do? We see the Black Fox going in and stealing this jewel. Spidey sees that it's him, and he's kind of angry because he's like given him this second chance. So he throws a spider tracer on him, and again we see Peter holding the golden notebook, thinking about whether he's going to do it or not. He traces him all the way to a building, and when he bursts in, there's a guy who's been killed on the floor. And Spidey, at the end of the comic, vows to take vengeance, and this time he's not going to get to let this criminal go without, I don't know, maybe killing him. I'm not sure. He references letting his Uncle Ben's killer get away, and he's not going to let it happen again. So we're left on a little bit of a cliffhanger here.
So here's the thing. This issue's not perfect, but I kind of love it. I forgot about this issue, but I actually think it really works. It's David Michelinie, who soon will be taking over Amazing Spider-Man as a regular writer. And it's got, just because I was thinking about Josie reading this as a first-time Spidey reader, the fact that they open with J. Jonah Jameson yelling at him, or no, not J. the landlady yelling at him. He's got to get money for the repairs, and it's like, this is, he doesn't have any money. He doesn't know how he's going to get money. It's just a classic issue to me. Like the stuff with Mary Jane and Aunt May is really good, and then Robbie Robertson. Like, I think it all really works. I don't necessarily love the cliffhanger, but other than that, and then, the art is a little bit inconsistent, which we can talk about later. But I actually thought this was really good. I was surprised. Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty average. Honestly, this week's. Well, I think it's just because this week's issues were all relatively strong. I don't think that there was one that I really disliked. So, and weirdly enough, I think maybe this one was kind of like the most mediocre. It was pretty
formulaic.
Good. It did have all of the classic like Spidey elements there. We have, just like you said before, he's always down on his luck. So of course the landlady's after him.
Right.
Nathan, Aunt May's like boyfriend, is like upset at him for not being around. He still feels guilty because the reason he's in there is because of him. He's trying to get some money because he's like, he has none. He asks for an advance. He gets denied. He's in the middle of kind of this fight between JJ and Robbie, and he thinks that he's helped this guy out. He's helped reform this like cat burglar, and it turns out that he's going around killing people. It's like, oh great. Right. So I let another man loose that I could have stopped, and I could have gotten ahead of this. So it's got all of those like classic Spider-Man tropes and elements there, and it works really well. I just think that the story was kind of just like, it was good. It wasn't, it didn't stand out to me.
Okay. G.I. Jolie, what are your thoughts on this one?
I didn't hate it, I think, as much as I've hated others. It was kind of hard to read just because of the scan, but that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, like Josh said, there's just a lot of the same sort of like Spidey nonsense that he puts us through every time. Like, for example, his outfit's too stinky to be Spider-Man in, so he's got to get the other one out. And lo and behold, he actually found a clean one this time, and we weren't, it wasn't like another laundry episode. I was surprised to see I almost said Silver Fox, the Black Fox again.
Right.
the Silver Fox wouldn't be a misnomer at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's got all the Spidey. It checks all of the boxes on the Spidey list. It wasn't super revolutionary, but I will say that parts of the art, some of the art is really cool.
And I want to quickly point out the art is by the pencils are by Mike Harris, who's turned in some really uneven art. Like, he's the one that drew that Smithville Thunderbolt one that we all kind of hated. He also did another one last week, but this week again he's inked by Kyle Baker, and some of it looks incredible. Like, he's obviously not great at the variety of angles and all that, but Kyle Baker's inks are so good that it just gives everything like a really nice realistic texture, and the use of shadows and all that I think is really well done in this issue.
Well, possibly in a first for this podcast, I'm going to give a shout out to the colorist, Bob Sharon.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Digital page 6. The third panel on digital page 6 where the Silver Fox is sliding into that window. Yep. And the only thing that's inked is him, but the rest of it is the color.
Yes.
That's my favorite panel that I've ever
I noticed
seen.
That. Yep. You're right. In the middle of this, commercially produced, churned out, McDonald's product, you get this experimental page. You're right. I don't think I've ever seen that. Maybe in a more recent comic, but definitely not in an 80s Marvel comic.
Yeah.
So that really stood out.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite things. And then I love when a page is designed. So when Miss Muggins slams the door and like it's just Peter with his head in his hand and the word slam behind him, I really like that too. Like,
right.
It's just it's so designer, it's so lovely and graphic. And it's rare that you get to see fun stuff like that in comics, but when you do, it's super cool.
Bex Luthor, what's your impression?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, you say it ticks all the Spidey boxes. I don't think it ticks them all particularly, like, originally, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, yep. Down on his luck, but it's all kind of the same stuff, but it's at least done well. I'd rather it be a little bit the same and done well than it be awful and different, because we all know it. Everyone hates awful and different. No, I did enjoy it. I thought it was just like, we just have to make sure that everybody knows Peter's having the worst day. He's just always having a bad time. But I did like the art, like Jolie was saying. Some of those panels really, really stood out. The slam was one of the first ones that I saw. I was like, that's interesting. That's something you can only really do in a comic book where you have, what are they, onomatopoeias? Like, stuff like that as the art. And of course, Peter's outfit is just fire in this whole issue. The blue sweater vest and the pink pants. I'm a big fan. But I think Josh is right. I don't think if your apartment catches fire, it's on you. I think that's the whole point about renting, is that it's not on you.
Right.
Yeah,
actually.
And now I'm kind of worried. Like, didn't you just move it? You better check your lease, Josh.
Yeah, I should have grabbed my magnifying glass.
If hoodlums come and burn down your apartment, it's your fault. All right. I don't think so. But yeah, it's interesting that the Black Fox has come back. I mean, I knew we knew last time he was like, oh no, I want to just retire and be with my family. It's like, you're a jewel thief. Bull. That's bullshit. And here he is again. Like, I think he is trying to get out of the game, but like, there's always going to be another jewel to steal, and it's pretty obvious he didn't kill the guy, right? Like,
right.
Nobody thinks that besides Peter.
Right, red herring.
Which is also kind of typical Spidey at this point. The end of the issue happens, and Peter's like, oh, it must have been this guy, and then it isn't. It's never that guy. Which is actually pops up later in another issue.
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems to be the theme this month.
We'll get to that, okay, so... Oh, go ahead, Becca.
I was just going to say, no, I did have a good time. It was an easy read. Nothing made me want to scream, so that's always a plus.
That's always a plus. Yeah, like... Like, that's different. David Michelinie to me. He's never innovative, but he's always solid and reliable. That's how I see him anyway. So he did the classic Iron Man run with Demon in the Bottle. So that's what he's kind of known for. And then Amazing Spider-Man with McFarlane. But anyway, okay, so Josie, this is your first ever comic book, your first ever Spidey comic book, your first ever everything comic book. So what was your impression of this one?
I actually really liked this comic book. As you said, it is my first one, so it kind of set the bar for the other ones we read. What I liked the most about this comic was how funny it was. It was kind of silly, so I enjoyed when Spider-Man went after the Black Fox in the museum, and he ends up fighting the guards. I was kind of taken aback because, like, I thought maybe he might just run away, you know? But he just full on beat up these civilians just trying to do their jobs, which I thought was pretty wild.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely enjoyed the art style. I found that it was really easy to kind of imagine the scenes as I was reading along and string them together. And I really enjoyed this one.
So, like, you know, obviously, I don't know, I guess, is this the type of art you'd expect from an 80s comic? I know you haven't read any, but is this what you associate in your mind with, like, a typical 80s comic, or was it better or worse than you thought it would be?
This is definitely what I would expect. So almost like a washed out sort of look with the colors, really, really font heavy, or I guess word heavy. I like the use of the onomatopoeia for slam. I thought that was really cool because I have seen comic-based TV shows where they do that, and I just thought it was super campy, but now I know that it's actually from the book.
Like Batman, of course. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely fell within my expectations. I was just more so shocked by the unclearness of Spider-Man's morality. Like, obviously he wants to stop bad people and do good, but he's also got this golden notepad that I don't know where it came from, but it seems kind of shady if you're trying to fence it. Again, he beat up the civilians, didn't actually get to the bad guy, so it left me with an interesting feeling about him and his moral compass.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been noticing more and more lately in the last few weeks that we've been reviewing these, is it's one of the things that makes Spider-Man stand out so much. Like you said, it's like, you know, when Batman is, you know, on a case, he always has the answer. When Superman is doing something, he pretty much always does the right thing. But it's like you said, Peter Parker, he's always guessing. He doesn't know the right answer. And so a lot of times he makes mistakes. And I think that's what makes him so interesting as a character. Now, one last question. I mean, I'm sure you've seen most of the movies. So does this version of Spider-Man, does it, you know, do you prefer it to the movies? Is it similar? Is it different? Like, what's your comparison?
I think that this version of Spider-Man is probably most similar to, I think it's Tom Holland, who's the latest rendition. Because again, he seems like he's around the right age to be making those kinds of mistakes. The one that came out, man, his name is escaping me. The original Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire. Now that I'm looking at the comic, I'm like, you were too old for that role. Like, it doesn't fit you. Like, you're awkward, but you're not quite in the right age category.
True. He's still my favorite, but he was 35 when he did the role. True.
To be fair, if you rewatch that movie, everyone's too old to be in high school.
Yeah,
very true.
Yep. All right, so I definitely recommend this comic. Like I said, I've read all these before, but this one was better than I remembered it to be, so I recommend this issue. Josh, what about you?
You know what? I definitely would, especially actually after hearing what Josie has to say. Reading Spider-Man comics every single week for like 90-something weeks straight, they start to kind of... You feel the formula. Like, you really... things start to get old quickly because it's kind of like, it kind of seems recycled after a while, right? Like, oh yeah, landlord troubles. Oh, he doesn't have any money. But the fact that somebody brand new to the comics can come in and enjoy it and completely understand who the character is without any prior context in the comics, I think it proves that this totally works. And I would recommend it.
Awesome. Okay. G.I. Jolie, what do you think?
I guess I recommend it too. Do we have to like? How do you know about that notebook? You know what I mean? Like, I can't give a full recommendation without saying at least figure out where he got the notebook from without reading Secret Wars. Right? Secret Wars or that Beyonder stuff.
Yeah.
Just ask someone else who's read it.
Yeah. Just listen.
I think it's funnier if you don't know.
Yeah? Okay.
I love it. It's such a comic book thing to just open it up and be like, why the hell does Peter Parker have a solid gold notebook in his possession? Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
He actually gives enough, like, hints.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, oh, well, I just picked it up out of a trash can.
Ridiculous.
But I technically stole it. It's
he?
like, just fence it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know, Josie?
I wanted to know. I'm like, where did this notebook come from? Like, I was convinced that he had got it by some sort of illicit means, because why else would you be trying to fence it? Like, the whole thing was sketchy.
Well, I mean, long story short, the Beyonder, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Beyonder.
Turns the headquarters of Iron Fist into gold. Like, everything turns to gold, including staplers, like potted plants. And the building collapses, and Peter's inside. And
he saves everybody in the building.
Yeah. And he takes a notebook.
Out of the garbage.
Out of the garbage. Yeah.
It wasn't just on someone's desk.
It was in the garbage.
So he's been wrestling with this for about 6 months. But 6 months times 3, because there's 3 Spider-Man comics. So he's been dealing with it for like 18 issues, right? So it gets a little bit old, but
I do want to say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
Oh no! Oh, it's okay. I want to hear what you have to say first.
Oh, I was just gonna say it did give us, what page was it? Page 19 of this issue, which is a textless page.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Like, kind of. Almost makes up for the fact that I hate this freaking notebook.
Yeah, right.
I love the silhouette. I love the shading.
Right.
I love that there's no inner monologue.
Mm-hmm.
Just a boy in his notebook.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this issue, it was above average to me. I really liked it. But so Becca, do you recommend this one then?
Well, Jolie wasn't. I cut her off.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
Did you have? Sorry.
Jolie, do you recommend it?
She said yeah.
50% recommend it.
Okay. All right. So Josie, that leaves you. Do you recommend this comic?
I would recommend this comic to beginners because I think it's silly and it's an easy read. It's not too long. Graphics are pretty cool. It's just that notebook.
Okay. All right. So yeah, with that, we are going to move on to the next one, which is Amazing Spider-Man 276. And Bex Luthor, you're going to summarize this one for us, right?
Yeah.
All
you know
right.
me. I love Amazing. Sorry, I just have to pull it up because every time I go, like, it's only when I'm reviewing, like, when I'm recapping it, does my phone decide, oh, you wanted 12 ads, right? No,
Gotcha.
no, I didn't actually. You know what? I don't need NordVPN. But this podcast is sponsored by NordVPN. You've tried other VPNs in the past, but you've never tried Surfshark. Which VPN are we shilling forth this week? Anyway, Amazing Spider-Man. So the cover of this issue is pretty cool. I don't think we talked about the last one, but I don't think it was that interesting at all.
Yeah, just like, I think he was just like getting shot at.
Right.
Which, par for the course, right?
Yeah.
So this one is like, oh, the Hobgoblin is unmasked. Who is it going to be? Spoiler alert. You don't find out. So it just starts off with Hobgoblin and where we left off last month from Amazing, where Hobgoblin and Spider-Man were in the middle of a fight, and I believe it ended off with Spider-Man like, oh, what's gonna happen? He's unconscious. Turns out he wasn't. It was a trick the whole time. So they're fighting, and Hobgoblin gets spider goop on his face, has to rip off his mask. And you're like, oh, is this when you're going to find out who the Hobgoblin is? No, he gets away in time, and Peter's very upset about it. He tries to get back into his apartment, but wouldn't you know it, Candy, Bambi, Randy, Sandy, and Mandy are on there's only 3 of them. Whichever 3 of them that they are, Peter's apartment mates are staining a bookshelf.
Again? Didn't they just do this?
No, they were staining a dresser last time.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
They've run out of things for them to do on this rooftop, because before they were sunbathing, but it's winter now, so they can't do that. So they're just really into DIY. And so Peter's trying to get back into his apartment, and he's like, oh, Mary Jane's in my apartment. Just, of course she is. Why wouldn't she be? And so I'll call her to tell her to bring me some clothes. So he bums a quarter off of a stranger who thinks he's getting mugged, calls Mary Jane. Mary Jane brings him some clothes in an alleyway. And she's like, oh, you know, I shouldn't be doing this. I don't want him to be Spider-Man. Even the last issue, she was like, maybe I couldn't love Peter if he wasn't Spider-Man. But I guess she's flip-flopped immediately. And then we go over to the hospital where Shoshana is, because she was previously kidnapped by the Hobgoblin, and she's obviously either injured physically or mentally. And Flash Thompson goes to visit her, and in just the best way possible for a man whose girlfriend was just kidnapped by a terrorizing crazy supervillain, he yells at her for leaving him. Which, I know Josie didn't read the last issue, but the reason Shoshan left Flash Thompson is because he slapped her in the face.
Oh, this makes so much more sense.
Slapped in the face and accused her of cheating on him. He's cheating on her currently.
Trash.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, I knew you stormed out, but like now you're back because I got hurt. Oh my god. And then he's like, what are you doing with another man? You got something going on with the Hobgoblin now? Like, typical abusive dickhead. So she smacks him because she's a queen, and the cop's like, you get out of here, scumbag, and he leaves the hospital room and makes a comment to the news reporters who are trying to interview Shoshan, and he's like, the Hobgoblin's just a big old coward. And apparently the news goes everywhere, and everyone's like, oh, Hobgoblin's not gonna like this, being called a coward. And I don't think the Hobgoblin cared like 2 bits about it. And then I don't know why this happens, but we quickly go to the insane asylum because the human fly is escaping, which I'm sure will be relevant in 40 issues from now. Why the human fly? Anyway, sorry. Peter's
I'll explain
apartment.
later, but anyway, okay.
It doesn't matter. Peter's apartment, Mary Jane's there, responsibility, blah, blah. Peter takes a shower, puts the suit back on, leaves to go fight Hobgoblin again after coming home after fighting the Hobgoblin. Flash Thompson is like, why does everything bad keep happening to me? I just beat my girlfriend, but I'm a great guy. Peter doesn't want to be my friend. Shoshan's leaving me. The girl that I'm cheating on Shoshan with, what if she doesn't even like me? Oh, buddy, life's rough. Back to the human fly. And then we get the confrontation with Peter and the Hobgoblin at the end of the issue. And obviously, the whole time Peter is like talking about his sense of responsibility and how this is going to be his last fight, 'cause he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. However, every opportunity he has to not be Spider-Man, he chooses to be Spider-Man. So I think he's going to continue to be Spider-Man, but that might just be spoilers at this point. Him and the Hobgoblin have an interesting fight where he erases Peter's stickiness with a substance, which is kind of funny, even though like that's like half of Peter's powers. He crashes the Goblin glider, and Peter rips off his mask to reveal, oh my god, it's Flash Thompson. What? That's crazy. Oh my god. And then turns out it's not Flash Thompson, it was a trick.
Oh, so
yeah.
clever. That Hobgoblin.
I love the Hobgoblin in this issue so much. But yeah, so Mike,
So
what'd you
that's
think?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Sometimes I think Amazing is kind of the mediocre formulaic one. I really like this issue. I don't know if I was just in a good mood when I was reading these or what, but I thought everything clicked in this one. I mean, obviously, the ending, you know, like it's a red herring, but we know it's a red herring, so I think that makes it okay, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. See, my thing, I liked it up until the last page.
Okay.
To be honest, I didn't like that they did like the bait and switch like right away. They didn't give us time to be like, oh, it was Flash. It was just immediately just kidding. It's just like, I would be upset if I was reading this back in May of '86. You know, reading this and like immediately like knowing that Flash is innocent, right? Because we know now. Next issue is going to be Flash trying to, you know, clear his name. Peter maybe is going to be convinced or maybe not. So Peter's either going to be helping him clear his name or, you know, like something. So now we have to like pretend like we don't know that Flash is actually innocent. Where if this wasn't shown, then, you know, it might be up in the air. Peter could actually have some like thoughts about like, is my old buddy really Hobgoblin? Has he been terrorizing the city? Has he been responsible for all of these deaths and all this chaos in the city? Or is it actually somebody else? And we don't get that. We, of course, have got to be shown right away. So I thought that was kind of a bummer to end on after a generally pretty fun issue.
Okay. G.I. Julie, what'd you think?
This wasn't terrible. Do you know what? There's a lot of fighting. I hate when there's just fighting, and it wasn't even great stuff. The same flying around the city BS. The whole like Hobgoblin being able to like steal his powers or get rid of some of his powers. It's like, well, here's the thing. He's got, like Becca said, that's 50% of what he can do. He can do all this other crap and still take you out. Like you just have a hoverboard and pumpkin bombs.
Uh-huh.
And apparently like magical unsticky juice. I don't know. What else didn't I like about this? I agree with Josh where I thought it was really, really clever that he bait and switched us, the Hobgoblin. But I don't think it was great that the writer showed it right away. Mm-hmm. They should have just hauled Flash Thompson's ass away, shown the detectives going through his apartment, finding the planted evidence, and Spider-Man, they should have ended where he's like, can it really be true? Is it Flash? And then he's just burdened by this. Like, I've known this guy since high school. It would have been great if he would have been like, there's no way it was Flash.
Right.
Like he knew that it wasn't, that it could, there could be no possibility because he knows his friends so well. They've known each other since high school. Like, they could have omitted the last four panels. I really wish they would have.
Well, here's the thing.
Sorry.
I'll just say quickly, if this comic came out today, 100% that last 5 panels would not have been there. And we know that from, you know, Walking Dead, where someone gets killed at the end of a season and we don't even reveal who it is. Just so everybody can guess for a year, right? But anyway, Josh, what were you going to say?
Well, I think the thing is, too, they put something in for fans who are, like, paying close attention to realize right away that Flash is not the Hobgoblin. They didn't have to show it. There's a giant red patch on Hobgoblin's tummy, and when he's getting taken away, there's nothing there on him. Like, you know what I mean? Like they already have like hints throughout that Flash is not the guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and they make it very that. Visually evident. It's like there's a there's a panel where Spidey is on his back, on Hobgoblin's back, and it's like they went back through, the artist went back through the book to make sure the spots were on the right Hobgoblin, because one of the spots looks kind of like unnaturally placed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Bex Luthor.
I thought it was fun. I mean, I'm really enjoying the Hobgoblin as a character. Like,
you've come a long way, Bex Luthor.
Yeah.
Remember when we first started? You're like, no, I don't like the Hobgoblin. Is anyone?
Roll the clip.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I think it's because the first little couple issues we've read of him, he was just like, man, I'm not the Green Goblin. That was his personality, and now it seems like he's actually maybe has one, and he might be smarter than we're led to believe, and he's been developed a little bit more.
Yeah,
right.
When he was first introduced, it was just like, oh, cool. Well, we got rid of the Green Goblin, so to bring him back, we got to do something different. Let's just paint him orange, I guess. But now he's like a fully fleshed out character, and I'm interested reading this, trying to figure out who he is. Well, like I've read these before, but like it's there's substance there. There's like actual story to what he is doing and why he's in here and why Peter is so interested in defeating him. So yeah.
I'm the opposite, though. I don't care who the Hobgoblin is. I kind of don't want to know who he is. I like all the bait and switches, and I want him to just stay, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but, like, they're like, oh, maybe it's somebody you know. But, like, I don't know who here knows who this Hobgoblin is, because there's been many, but,
Sorry, do you guys hear this?
Yep.
What is that? Is that the dog?
It's him snoring.
Oh, I was wondering what that was.
just want to introduce to the podcast.
Yeah, I got a puppy.
We didn't intro him in the beginning.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I got a puppy. He's snoring. I'm gonna like try to shush him.
No, do not shush.
Okay,
Puppy snores forever.
Go on.
But yeah, no, I like that, like, he ripped off his mask, and it's like, oh, I don't know who he is. I love that he just threw Flash Thompson in. It almost seems like something the Joker would do in a, like, in a good way, not in, like, a rip-off kind of way. Be like, oh, this guy's talking shit. Well, he's me. Haha. Like, that's funny to me. Honestly, even the obligatory human fly insert, I like that. I think the human fly is fun. What a weirdo. They're like literally giving him garbage to eat. Like, I thought that was funny. It was just huh?
I want to say, Josh, was Human Fly the character that was like licking
the pop off of the table?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Julie, you were there for that one. I forgot. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Beck.
No, I love that he's literally a fly. Like, I love that. Yeah. I think amazing, this issue especially is like hovering over that just can't be goodness of Spider-Man. Like, there is like, oh, the Hobgoblin, like, obviously there's a subplot of abuse that I talked about last week and the week before, and I'm not a big fan. But besides, if we take that part out, then it is campy and fun Spider-Man goodness with, like, I know Jelly didn't like the punching. I like the punching. I'm a big fan of when dudes in tights beat each other up for my amusement.
I like wrestling too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, wrestling. I don't know what. Yep. Yeah, I love that he planted evidence. I'm just kind of scrolling through and being like, no, I had a great time. Why is Flash such a dick all of a sudden? Like the last 3 issues, he's just the biggest dick.
I read somewhere that they explain it later that Hobgoblin was influencing him or mind controlling him or something stupid, but I don't.
He's mind controlling somebody else.
I don't think the writer was thinking of that at this point.
Because like, there was like 4 issues ago, we were all like, "Oh, Flash Thompson, what a bro, like what a guy," and then all of us, they were just like, you know what? People like Flash Thompson now. Let's ruin that.
Right.
Let's have him hit his girlfriend for like, and cheat on her. Cool.
you know what? He does something really weird that Peter also does in the book that other men have also done in past books, which is when they're arguing with women, they call them "Hey, lady." Like Peter's like, Peter calls Mary Jane lady, like they haven't been friends since high school. Flash calls Shashan lady, like they haven't been living together.
Right.
It's. Do you know what? I give the dialogue a 0, like a 3. Anyway.
Okay, on that note, Josie, we haven't heard from you. What was your impression of this? This is the flagship title, so what did you think of Amazing Spider-Man this week?
Oh, that's funny. I actually didn't like this one as much.
Oh, okay.
I did like the artistry. Like, I found it very bright and colorful, so it definitely catches your eye. But I wasn't fond of the story.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna have to agree with Bex. I wasn't so fond of like the underlying theme of like abuse. Like that was, I mean, it was probably like interesting at the time, maybe, or like whatever. But I wasn't so into it. I also wasn't fond of Flash being the Hobgoblin, sort of, kind of, not really. Only because I didn't think it made a lot of sense. Because when he leaves the hospital, he goes off on this whole rant that the news captures about how the Hobgoblin's horrible and whatever. And I'm like, why would you be ranting about yourself? Like, it doesn't seem to track. And so then at the very end, when they reveal, like, he's not actually the Hobgoblin, but he was framed, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. But for everybody else to think and believe that he was, even with, like, the circumstantial evidence, it just, I don't know, it didn't seem so believable to me. And I know, like, we have to suspend belief because obviously you can't be swinging through, like, the cities and doing crazy stuff. But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could have been done better.
Sure. Now, what about the art style? This one is obviously different from the Web of Spider-Man. Did you like the art? I know you said it was bright, but did you like the actual, like the pencils themselves, or?
Yeah, I found like this one had a lot more detail, and the fighting scenes where Spider-Man is kicking various people, kind of doing like gymnastics, I thought those were really well done. So that was really cool. I also like that the characters were very diverse in this one. Like I wasn't really expecting that, so it was just like a nice little cherry on top.
Okay. Now, for anyone, I don't want anyone to lose any sleep, so I'll quickly explain what this human fly thing is, okay? So at this time...
Thank you so much.
Yes. In Captain America, there was a character called Scourge, and he was going around killing supervillains. And the real reason was because Marvel had too many crappy supervillains. And so Mark Grenwald came up with this idea. Okay, let's have a guy just go around. Yeah, there you go. And just go around and kill them all.
Shitty bad guy.
Yeah. So they brought back the human fly. So it was almost like every editor was like, okay, which supervillains do you want to kill off? And so obviously in Spider-Man, it was, well, let's get rid of this human fly guy. So that's what they picked. And that's why that scene happens. And it has no connection.
So this never comes back?
Not in Spider-Man.
So the fly's just dead?
Yeah, he's dead.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm so upset about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so this
I don't
trash
like this.
man is the guy who kills all the Marvel villains?
Yes.
That's him, the trash man?
Yep.
He's taking out the trash.
See, now my opinion on this book is kind of soured. Because I assumed that this was setting up something to come for like the next issue.
I mean, Scourge might come back, but Human Fly is absolutely dead. He's dead.
Okay.
And his little tagline there, "Justice is served." That was used like every Marvel comic he appeared in, he would kill a bad guy and then say that. So that's his little tagline. Yeah. So that's yeah. So yeah, that's what superhero comics were like in 1986, Josie. So anyway.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I feel like his death could have been a bit more, monumental. He's got like half a page there.
Yeah, good point. Oh, you know what? I forgot to ask while we're on the subject. Which costume do you prefer, the red and blue or the black?
Oh yeah.
I like you know what? I don't know. I like them both. I like the red and blue because it's classic. That's how I've always kind of seen Spider-Man. And so when I saw the black outfit, I was a little taken back because I didn't actually know he wore a black outfit when he wasn't like possessed by Venom or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but it's very sleek. Like, it looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't used to it.
Sure. Yeah, it's very confusing, but he got rid of the symbiote Venom like after only maybe 6 issues. And then, who was it? Black Cat?
Yeah.
I think Black Cat sewed him a cloth one, so that's why he's got both now.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
She thought it was sexier. So she made him a black costume, and he was like, "How dare you? This reminds me of when I got my mind taken over by this Venom symbiote. Oh, that's a horrible time. How could you do this to me?" And then he wears it every day.
Yeah.
after he breaks up with her.
Because the readers
really
think
loves
it's
it.
cool.
Yeah. But in
I do have
actuality,
good news, though. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
he's too lazy to launder his other costume. And oh boy, did he ever luck out, and it was in the fire, so double not having to launder his costume, his red and blues.
That's another thing too I disliked about this one and the previous one is I think it's pretty funny and clever when things happen to his suit. And
Right.
I love when that kind of comes into play because it mixes things up a bit, but it feels like for the last few issues, like the last few weeks of reading these comics, it's like every week it's like, oh man, my suit's stinky.
Right.
I gotta wear the other one. It's just like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Like before, something would happen to his suit every few months.
Yeah.
Like it took a while for that to kind of pop up again, so it felt fresh and new. And they would switch it up every once in a while too. Like, oh, my suit's stinky, I should wash it. And then he, somebody knocks on his door, so he gets distracted and he leaves it in the wash too long, and now all the colors are faded. So for the next issue or two, it looks like he's in a all pink suit. Right? So it's fun. It's stuff like
awesome.
That is really fun because it's new and like it's something is happening, where this one it doesn't really matter because every issue his suit's dirty, so he's got to switch to the other one.
Right.
And it just almost feels like oh, we got to have both suits because everybody likes the black and white one, but we can't get rid of the original either. So we'll just have them constantly switching between the two in every single issue. So I'm just kind of like, meh, over it at this point.
Gotcha. Well,
I was going to say, I have good news. Sorry.
Go ahead, Becca.
The Fly was resurrected by the Hood.
Yes.
As well as all the supervillains killed by the Scourge.
What?
By using the powers of Dormammu. Because the Hood wanted to kill Punisher.
Oh,
and that's how he was going to do it.
That's amazing.
When was that? What story was that?
Neat.
Comics are so stupid.
After Dark Reign? Nope, during Dark Reign.
Oh, okay.
Dark Reign storyline, Human Fly is among the 18 criminals that were murdered by the Scourge of the Underworld to be resurrected by the Hood using the power of Dormammu.
I love that.
Talk about
And it gave him
a
extra
story.
powers. He could vomit acid, and he has wings that are stronger than steel that can deflect cannon fire. Good for him. Oh, he now craves human flesh.
Oh.
I liked it better
Yeah.
when he drank pop off of the surface of a desk. But anyway,
Yeah, no, this is saying that he no longer eats garbage. He devoured a prostitute. So
Oh my gosh.
gonna have to review that one. Okay.
All right.
Uh-oh.
It's like from 0 to 60.
yeah,
Yeah.
my
Right.
guy. Oh, so Taskmaster and Kraven they hunt him because he's an animal supervillain. So they gather all the animal supervillains like Toad and White Rabbit and Yellow Jacket, and they hunt them. That's fun.
Well,
Little bit of Fly trivia.
human fly.
I think he just goes by the Fly now.
Oh, okay.
Because
So anyway,
Human Fly was part human. This Fly's all fly.
and there's also technically 2 human flies from Marvel. There's another one that's just a superpowered stuntman, but hopefully we'll never have to review his comic. But
Yeah,
anyway.
sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Get a couple more in here.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So on that note, I'm going to say I actually love this issue. Well, I don't love it, but it was a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend this issue. Josh, what about you?
I had fun reading it, but it had kind of some flaws. I think that overall, in like the larger scope of the Hobgoblin stories, I really do like it, and I like this whole kind of arc that's going on. So I would definitely recommend it.
All right, G.I. Jolie.
Oh, I think I said okay, not bad.
Okay.
Okay. Bex Luthor, do you recommend this one?
I just found an article that's saying that there's a human fly superhero movie in development.
Oh,
Come
no.
on.
You're lying. Sony.
Just gonna drop that in the chat.
Sony.
I don't know. It might be the superhero version of the human fly and not my favorite version, but I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10 unnecessary movie remakes.
All right.
Oh, this
I
was
loved
back
it.
from 2012. Oh, thank God.
Okay. Okay. No, I did enjoy the issue. Maybe just can we stop having like some problematic things in comic books, please? I know it's the 80s, but come on.
Mm-hmm.
Flash Thompson can just yell at his girlfriend. He doesn't have to he's already cheating on her.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Just
Anyway.
enjoy these 5 issues full of red flags. Like, oh.
10 out of 10 red flags from me. 10 out of 10 unnecessarily using women as plot devices for me.
All right.
I liked it, but I have problems with it, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Josie, what do you think?
I'm on the fence with this one. Again, I like the visuals, but the story just didn't hit for me. So I would recommend this to someone who just wants to gloss over the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fair. All right, now we're gonna jump to the final comic this week, and unfortunately, I have to review it.
What?
You know,
Yeah,
Huh?
what are you talking about?
what do you mean?
I mean,
Unfortunately.
yeah.
Well, it was my least favorite of the bunch by
Whoa.
far. Yeah.
We should just know by now that if we all liked it, Mike won't.
You know, and here's the thing, I gotta point out, the cover was by Keith Pollard, who G.I. Jolie and I have met several times. You remember Keith Pollard, right, Jolie?
Yeah, sure do. He's a great guy. Super
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah,
His wife
doesn't
is
talk much.
Very nice.
Yep. And I actually kept this. I sold some of my Spidey comics, but I kept this one because I like the cover so much. This is a very cool cover, right? Kind of classic. Him running up the side of the building here. And then we open up to the splash page, and again, my memories of reading this as a kid, I'm like, oh, here we go. But then it was all downhill from there. But you guys disagree, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so basically, we have this hoodlum trying to break into an apartment. He gets caught midway through. He runs away. He runs outside, and then in an awkwardly staged scene, he comes across a bunch of toughs arguing with a cop, right? But they know he's a cop, right? Yeah, arguing with a cop. The cop pushes them. They push him. They pull out their weapons. Things are about to get really ugly, but Spider-Man is kind of overhead, and he sees what's going on, and he sees this as an opportunity to start taking photos for the Daily Bugle of him in action as Spider-Man. So then he sets up his camera, jumps down, starts fighting these bad guys. They all kind of scatter. Spider-Man gets into an argument with this cop, and then basically the guy's yelling at him, and the guy's like, yeah, screw you. He takes off. What a jerk, right? And then so then it gets kind of weird. So then this hoodlum, I have to be specific, who was just trying to break into the apartment, he is like, they're gone. Now I can finally get out of here. And so he comes up with this plan. He's like, man, that Spidey is something else. I bet he doesn't have problems like mine. He's probably loaded. Hey, how about that guy in Chelsea who bought all those fancy locks at Pop's shop a few months ago? What's his name? Parker. Yeah, that's it. So he decides he's going to rob Peter Parker's apartment. So now we cut to him in Peter Parker's apartment. He's going through his stuff, and he finds the box in Peter Parker's apartment, which contains Peter's Spider-Man paraphernalia, including his costume and his web shooter and some other stuff. So just as he's leaving, Spider-Man comes home and realizes, oh my God, I've been robbed. So he goes through all this stuff and he's like, oh no, my spare Spidey stuff is gone. So then the guy goes home and he's like, okay, well, I've got all this stuff. He's like, okay, what am I going to do with it? So then he kind of like touches base with his father and he's like, oh, my dad's been mad at me since mom died, whatever. So then he goes into his like room and he dumps everything out and he's like, wait a minute. This belt design looks like, oh my gosh, this is Spider-Man's outfit. Incredible. I think I know just what to do with it. So he does what is obvious to anyone that would discover these things and do, and he dresses up as Spider-Man and decides to climb up the side of a skyscraper, right? Which, I don't know if anyone's ever tried that, but it's not as easy as it looks, okay? So he basically, he ends up breaking into this woman's apartment, and then she calls the police. The police come. He tries to climb down the side of the building, falls, almost kills himself. The police arrest him, wrap him up in like a sack, dump him on the couch of like the police chief or whatever. The guy wakes up. Now the police chief thinks that he's Spider-Man, so he's like, "You can either listen." Oh, this is the same guy from earlier that was in like the argument with like the bad guys in the alley. And he's like, you can either listen very carefully and do exactly as I tell you, or I can give you the Daily Bugle exclusive on the capture of Spider-Man. So basically he tells this guy, you're going to work for me now. So the real Spider-Man is trying to figure out what happened to his stuff. And so he goes in to this. Oh, no, sorry. No, this is the fake one. So the fake one goes into this bar and he's like threatening these bad guys and trying to get information out of them. And then they end up beating him up and like throwing him in this warehouse. And then he realizes that the belt thing can like, light up stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then as Spider-Man had noticed earlier, that one of the things that were in this box was his old spider tracers. And just so people that don't know, Spider-Man can throw it's almost like a little bug. Like he throws it on someone, it sticks to them, and he can use his spider sense to track that person down after. And so that's what's inside this box. And so this guy ends up turning them on, which activates Spider-Man's spider sense. So he tracks down the box, he comes in, beats up all the bad guys, confronts the impersonator, but then he realizes he sees something in this guy that he sees in himself, because the guy's like, what does he say? He's like, wait, I can explain. He's like, I was only doing it to help my father. We needed the money. So he gets on Peter's, on his good side, just as happened several times in the last few issues of Spider-Man. So Peter Parker feels guilty. He basically ends up forgiving the guy, which then pisses off the cop, because the cop is like, what the heck is going on? Like, Spider-Man is chumming up to this guy. Are you kidding me? So then this guy ends up befriending the cop. He goes back home. And he ends up, then he befriends the cop and goes to his house and basically, because the guy's locked out and this bad guy is now a good guy, and so he's going to help him get back into his apartment. And then the cop is like, if you'd like to come inside, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes. And then he's like, sure, officer. After all, we're on the same side, aren't we? The end. And yeah, like I said, this was my least favorite of the books this week, but it sounds like I was alone in that regard. So who would like to jump in first and tell us how much they liked it?
Me.
Anybody? Okay, G.I. Jolie, tell us.
I liked it because it was something different.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I've never read anything like this before, where somebody accidentally... It's like a really great morality. There's just so much to unpack. I can't even finish a sentence right now. There's just this guy who is seemingly doing bad stuff, gets chased with a toilet seat. Amazing. And then
I forgot about that.
Right? So there's just so many weird things happening in this book, least of all being wrapped up in a sack or that toilet seat.
Yeah.
I like the idea that this guy uses his smarts to aid himself, even though he has criminal intentions. He remembers somebody, on file, knowing he could make it easier for himself to break into people's apartments if he just broke into the apartments of the people whose locks they install. And then the idea that he finds or steals all of Spidey's stuff and goes, do you know what? No, that's a lousy racket. I'm going to try to crawl into people's windows using Spidey's gear, scare them, and then steal their stuff. Like, it's not something that in the 96 weeks of listening to or reading about Spider-Man comics that I've seen yet. So, yeah. Also, kind of how they figure it out at the end. I mean, it's messy, but it's one of the more different stories, and I think it's not a good story, but it's different, and that's what makes me like it.
Okay. Bex Luther, what about you?
I loved it. I'm shocked that you didn't like this one. I really am, because it seems like such classic Spidey shenanigans to me. Like, somebody broke into his apartment, stole his suit, and instead of like giving it to a mob boss or to the cops or anything, or even suspecting for a moment that the guy's apartment he broke into is Spider-Man, he just throws it on to pretend to be Spider-Man. And then at the end of the issue, Spider-Man's like, I know, kid, your mom's dead and your dad's got money troubles and you're just trying to help out and you can't find a job and life's rough. And you know that this is wrong and this ain't it. And he's going to give him some helpful Spidey wisdom to get him. He's like, hey, you like took that spider tracer and you like fixed it so that I could sense it from further away. That's pretty good. You should get into that kind of stuff. And the kid's like, oh, gee, thanks, Spider-Man. And the cop's like, wow, Spider-Man did more for that young boy's life than I ever could because I'm a terrible police officer. And then he does. He has like an electronics shop that he opens up with his dad's lock shop, and he seems to he's like gonna get his on the straight and narrow now, and I thought it was charming. Well, and like Peter Parker's like not so sad it hurts in this.
Okay. Joshua Merval, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same as both Jolie and Becca. Things like this actually happen in real life, where the police will find like a hacker that's doing illegal stuff, and they'll kind of like do a trade where they'll like wipe their slate clean if they work for them, right? Like so I think that that's kind of a clever story and an ending. You do kind of like this kid right from the beginning. Like he is like a hooligan. He's like causing trouble, but he's charming the entire time. Like I was never rooting for him, like for him to like get caught or for anything bad to happen to him. So I think they did a really good job of setting his character up as well. Yeah, I just had fun. I had fun with it. Like Jolie said too, it's also not perfect. Like I don't think that it's without flaws. But I think it was like the easiest one to read and the most fun. And maybe it's also too just because especially Peter Parker has been awful lately.
Peter Parker has been the best book. This is the worst issue I've read in 15 weeks. But anyway,
to me, it's the
opposite.
opposite.
One with Mary Jane in the bathtub?
Yeah, that was much better than this. You kidding me?
Or what's his name? The guy, the killer guy. What's his name?
The killer guy.
Sin Eater.
That was better than this. Oh my god, are you kidding me?
When a 9-year-old character dies, Peter goes, "Oh crud."
Oh beans.
Yeah, but
shucks.
Yeah, but the character wasn't even really in the book that much. Just because she was 9 years old doesn't mean that she was around much. I mean, I'm just saying.
They spend the next 4 issues talking about what a great friend she was to Peter, though.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I think you're really fixated on that, but it doesn't mean that the writing itself was worse than this. Like this issue was like, and let's be clear, this is written by Len Kaminski, who's written nothing. Like this guy, yes, he has written some comics, but in the overall scheme, he is not a well-established writer. He doesn't have a reputation for writing anything, really. And so I just think it's very clear that the writing in this, I thought, was a huge drop in quality from previous issues. Yeah.
See, I feel the opposite. I feel like up until now, the characters have been very inconsistent, even within the same story arc. With like part 1, part 2, part 3, the characters feel different. This feels like Peter Parker. I like there's an actual story that makes sense and is like followed through to the end instead of things randomly happening or like having cutaways that set up other stories.
Okay, I'll give you credit for
later
one.
on.
I'll give you credit for one thing. This story is self-contained. It doesn't have any nonsense like the Human Fly, right?
Right.
It doesn't have any Beyonder.
Nonsense.
Yeah. It doesn't have any, like, everything is self-contained. I'll definitely give it credit for that. However, the fact that the same cop who is in the fight with the guys is the same one that comes in later that the same hooligan gets dropped off in front of, that is where I jumped the shark for me. I'm just like, no, this is just ridiculous to me. I don't know. And the fact that the first thing he does, when he gets the costume, the first thing he thinks of is to start climbing. Okay, I get it. He's a thief.
I would do the same.
Yeah, but I mean,
you put it on right away.
Yeah, I would have thought, well, wait a minute. Now I know who Spider-Man is. I'm going to do something with that. But even the fact that the cop was thrown off the trail by, I think later on, he's like, obviously that couldn't be Spider-Man. I don't know. It was just too far-fetched for me. I prefer the Hobgoblin thing with Flash Thompson. That was more logical. But anyway.
Yeah, never mind. You said it.
What?
Well, you're like, this thing that happens, it's so close to real life, that's too far-fetched, but the Hobgoblin,
definitely.
Totally way more realistic.
Yeah. Josie, Kay, you have the final word. What did you think of this one?
Yay. I actually really like this one.
I
know, sorry. It's kind of... Okay, so what I liked about this was, for me, it fit what I thought a stereotypical 80s comic book would be like. So it was incredibly campy. It seemed like an after-school special that wanted to drill this message of whatever into your head. So it's like, this one I really enjoyed. I liked that they were very, like, the dialogue was kind of forced. I liked how awkward it was written because it almost takes you out of it and makes you understand that this is very much contrived. And for this one specifically, it really seemed to serve a purpose of, hey, kids, don't do bad things. You probably have a secret talent. You just have to find it type thing. What else did I like about this one? I'm with you, Mike, though. Like, I did think that when he found Spider-Man's outfit, that he would immediately try and blackmail him. I thought he was going to go very malicious with it. But then when he didn't, I started to like him as a villain or like the antagonist more, because you kind of realize that, like, he is just hard up on his luck, and, you know, he's still trying to, like, steal from people, unfortunately, just in more creative ways. But he wasn't trying to hurt someone purposely, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, he's not malicious. He's just greedy or selfish.
Exactly. And I mean, he's kind of doing it for a good cause. Like, he's trying to help out his dad. I thought it was silly that it was the same cop from the beginning, the middle, and the end. I feel like, again, I haven't read too many comics, but it does feel like that was definitely forced. But it served a purpose, and the purpose was to teach this young man a lesson and to get him on the right track.
Right.
So yeah, I really like the campiness of it all. But I think I just like that style, maybe.
Well, here's the other problem I had. I think if this art was better, I would have liked the story more, but I honestly thought the art was pretty terrible. And like I said, like on page 2 or 3, when the bad guy runs into the alley, that whole sequence was just so poorly, like, blocked. You know what I mean? Like, where they were and how he was there and how he saw them, and then the way Spider-Man comes in. I just thought all that was really awkward and not well staged. And like when Spider-Man comes home on digital page 9 and he realizes that he's been broken into, like, that whole sequence, the way he's standing, I just don't think any of it's well done. Like, comic book art, bad comic book pencils can be covered up by inks and colors, and it can make you kind of just forgive what's underneath because you go, oh, it's cool, it looks like a comic book, I like it. But when you really look at this art, it's pretty terrible, I think. Like, it's obvious this was a fill-in, right? Like, these are writers and artists that haven't worked on Spider-Man, as far as I know, ever before this. So it was pretty much just, again, in the drawer, and they just shoved it in to fill in an issue of Spidey. But everybody liked it except me. Yeah. Also, that shot where the bad guy sticks a gun in the cop's face, that was awkward. Like, is it touching his nose? Is it not touching his nose? I don't know.
Yeah, that's really close, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, it's always kind of, again, you talked about being campy. Like, it's always kind of forced when, like, the bad guy learns his lesson at the very end, and he's like, now everything's, I don't know, it's too forced, too contrived. It was definitely my least favorite of the bunch. So I sold some of my Spider-Man comics in the 80s, but I kept this one, but I wonder why I did. It might have just been because of the cover now. I don't know. So I don't recommend it. Yeah. Okay. So Josh, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, this one was pretty fun. I love the campiness of it. I think that the art kind of fits with the story that they're trying to tell too, where it's both like, it's not like a kiddie comic where it's like bright and like fun, the art, but it's also not so dark where it needs like a more serious tone. I think everything kind of meshed well together. Again, it's not a perfect comic, but I would recommend it.
Okay. Julie?
Yes, I recommend it. And I'm going to echo something that Josie said earlier about the way that the book came off to her, which was, it's kind of after school specially. Remember, kids, you have a special talent. And even though it's rooted in crime, you can always just swerve the other way, continue to pick locks, but pick them for good, for people who want their locks to be picked. So yeah, I recommend.
All right, Bex Luthor.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Everyone learns a lesson. Peter learns that he should get a better locksmith. The cop learns that he should be a better cop, and he became a cop to help people, and he's not doing that. The boy learns to become an engineer, maybe. And the group of miscellaneous thugs, what do they learn? Shit. They learn, don't mess with Spider-Man. I guess. Don't also, like, you have a gun, but does not, you like, shoots just once. And anyway, everyone learned a lesson, and I learned that Mike and I will never share an opinion.
No, it'll always be opposite. Anyway.
But that's okay, because it's opinions about things that don't matter to our friendship, because we both agree on the things that are important.
I don't know about that. I'll get back to you on that one, Becca. Anyway, we're talking about Spider-Man here. Okay.
I was like, are you just trying to like tell me that you're homophobic? Because I'm not okay with that.
No, I just love all Spidey comics except this one.
That's so we can't be friends?
No, we can't. Sorry. Anyway, okay.
This is the line. It wasn't anything to do with the Snyder Cut.
Did you just say you? Hold on. You just said that you like every Spidey comic?
Well, that's just an exaggeration.
Obviously. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because if you want, we could have an all Marvel team up special for our 100th episode.
Oh,
where it's just Mike, and he's only allowed to say good things.
Sounds like a threat.
Okay, yeah, but it's all good. I kid, Becca. Everything's good. Okay, so now
I don't know. We haven't seen each other in 2 years. I'm starting to think you don't like me.
Oh, stop. I mean,
this whole pandemic was a ploy.
I did drive to London to visit you, but well,
you didn't. I don't remember that. I wasn't there for that.
I mean, I drove through the city.
Cool.
He thought as he was in London.
You just weren't on the streets that I was driving through trying to get back to 401. Anyway. Okay, anyway. All right. Okay. So now, Josie, do you recommend...
What is this, the Frenemies podcast?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, no.
Whoa. Which one is Trisha Paytas?
Me! No, I'm kidding.
God.
Mike is definitely Trisha Paytas.
I don't even know what that means, but anyway.
Google her.
Do
You'll
not
be disappointed.
Okay,
No.
Josie, do you recommend this issue of Spidey?
I would 10 out of 10 recommend this issue.
What?
I know. I loved it. It was so silly. It's everything I think a comic should be as someone who doesn't read comics. And I like that I didn't have to have any sort of prior knowledge to understand what was going on here. It was all just very apparent. It was what it was. I got a cool little moral lesson. I'm happy.
I'll give you that. I definitely give it points for being self-contained because I really don't like when comics have these weird subplots that go nowhere and don't connect to anything. But anyway, I'll give you that. So on that note, I would like to thank Josie for joining us. It was great having you on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, you guys. It's
For
fun.
sure. Are you now intrigued enough to want to read more comic books?
I think I am. I'm a pretty
Awesome.
big reader anyways. I just never gave the genre a chance.
Well, if you're interested, we'd like to have you on again in the future. So
For sure.
awesome.
I
That'd
love
be
it.
fun. All right. Cool. Okay. And so if you're listening right now, be sure to join us next week as we review Web of Spider-Man number 15, featuring the first appearance of Chance. Amazing Spider-Man 277, featuring the deepening mystery of the Hobgoblin, a guest appearance by Daredevil, and a shocking confrontation with the Kingpin. And Peter Parker number 115 features a guest appearance by Doctor Strange. And Josh, Josh, you can
Nice.
take it from here.
We also want to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts, or you can drop us a line on Twitter at HCT Spidercast. Please let us know what you guys think about the comics we're talking about and the podcast itself. It really helps when you keep in touch. So let's keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. So until next Monday,
Spider friends, go for it.